Hey. It's the TTP Field Manual podcast. We love tabletop RPGs, tabletop wargaming, Warhammer in particular, that kind of jazz. Hey, today we're going to be talking about all the demons and plagues and forces of that stinky little chaos god Nurgle. I am your host, Joshy. With me, but not as always, is Zach, our resident little Nurgling. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent.
How are you today?
Good. Thank you for asking. It's first thing in the morning. I've already spoken to you for closing in on an hour. We're going to be talking about Warhammer. It's a good day.
Very good.
Yeah. Before we get into the actual topic, friends, just going to give some show notes real quick. Links in bio. It's my favorite phrase at the moment. Links in bio. In the bio of this podcast, you will find links to our website, which hosts all of our other links, Instagram, YouTube, community Discord. It's a fun place. Come join in. You can check that out if you'd like. We do have a book club that we do here on the podcast every 4 to 6 weeks. The book club for this month of August is the Adepta Sororitas 40k novel Requiem Infernal. It's a bit spooky. And that's kind of all my show notes. Zach, have you been listening to the book club yet? Have you started it?
I have. I'm not very far in, but it has been interesting to say the least.
Yeah, have you been enjoying it a bit, or like having a different writing style compared to some others that you've listened to?
Yeah, no, it's been good. Yeah, it's very different, but it's good. I've been enjoying it. It brings back a little bit of that human element back to these like sometimes grandiose characters that are in this universe.
I was scrolling through Reddit before, and on the I think Space Wolves Reddit, there's someone that was posting this picture of one of the Omnibus collected novels and said, "Hey, I'm really enjoying this. Is the second one like got more characterization, or is it still man shouts at something whilst pointing his bolter?" And I'm like, yeah, that's Space Marine novels in a nutshell, usually.
Welcome to the Black Library.
Welcome to the Black Library. Hey, you get lots of different styles. I'm a big fan of the earlier 2000s pulpy stuff where they didn't take it as seriously because there's some just hilarious crap. But anyway, hey, Zach, our favorite question on this podcast, usually within the opening minutes?
Could you remind me what it is again? I'm a little foggy.
How's your hobby?
You just made Discord cut out. My hobby's good.
It's okay, I got it.
I have decided that I am going to push for Armies on Parade. Feeling a bit of FOMO.
Fuck yeah!
So I'm using that as inspiration, a kick in the backside to get at least a portion of my army done. So, but to answer your question, not much. I built Guo, and that's about it.
You built Guo?
Just for this episode, totally,
Totally.
Yeah.
He's going to give you the energy you need to get through today's episode.
He's sitting there on my shelf, looking upon me,
licking his lips.
Mm-hmm. Yes. How's your hobby been?
Fun. Oh, what hobby? I'm overseas still and will be for the remaining of August, so that's great for me. I have not been doing anything particular in regards to my hobbying of miniature painting and building. I've bought some, but we'll talk about that another day. I played a little bit of video games here and there, just an hour here, hour there. But for the most part, my spare time, if you will, a couple of hours in the morning or the evening, it's been really just podcasty stuff. In the last week, I've put together several packets of notes, editing, that kind of jazz. So very intentionally productive. How's your hobby?
I mean, that's good. Bit of bookkeeping never hurt anyone. And by the way, to everyone listening, just so you know, if you buy models, that does count as doing stuff. Don't let other people talk you down from that. Go out and buy models and then make sure that the dust doesn't get on other stuff. That's what you're really doing.
That's how you do it. Gotcha. It's not a pile of shame, guys. It's a pile of opportunity.
A pile of pride.
It's a pile of pride. Look at my disassembled miniatures. Look at my palette of parts.
It's Warhammer deconstructed. It's fine.
Yeah, if you bought Lego and it's just all pieces in the box, you still bought Lego, right? But you haven't you haven't built your Lego. But no one's going to be like, "Oh my god, you have all this unbuilt Lego."
True.
Yeah, I was going to say something. Damn it. What was it? Oh yeah. So our community Discord, Jonny is in charge of that for the most part. He's done really well. He's set up a lot of different channels and, stuff along that nature. Besides things as general chats and meme chats, we also have a work in progress chat. And I made like a subsection of that specifically for pictures of the boxes of the minis that you just bought. Because people are like, look what I bought. And it's just a box of minis. And then like 2 months later, yeah, I'll get around to it.
Yeah. I wonder who was the inspiration for that.
Me a little bit.
Oh, true.
At the start of this year, I had so many sprues. But hey, that's okay.
I've been trying to transfer mine into a tub. I put them all away and then immediately, like a plastic tub, just to like store them in. So it's a little neater. Not like these. Okay. Not fresh sprues, like stuff that I've air quotes used, but still have like spare bits on them.
Oh my gosh. You and Jonny killing me. I don't have so much space to leave, mostly baked sprues lying about. So I went to Kmart, which is Australia's Walmart, I suppose, and bought like a crafty box with all these tiny little drawers, probably for jewelry, but all my done sprues, I just clip all the bits like heads and guns and arms and stuff and just put it in these specific little trays. And then one day I went over to Jonny's place and he's like, hey, do you want some more bits? I'm like, yeah, okay. And he pulls out the tub. The tub had like entire sprues in there with like 2 or 3 shoulder pads still on them. Like you couldn't have clipped these out and put it in your box of bits. He's like, nah, F it.
So I did the exact same thing as what you were doing, clipping them off. Nice, neat, organized. I even had a label maker. Used the label maker.
Oh,
right. I then very promptly gave up. So yeah. Anyway, in the process of putting things back away after trying to find something.
Fair enough. Hey, guess what, Zach?
What's that, Josh?
We passed the 10-minute mark of recording, which is the moment where I really like to put us onto our actual topic of the day. What do you think about that?
I think that's a splendid idea.
Woo-hoo-hoo. It's your favorite part of the 40k and, well, Sigmar universe, isn't it? Nurgle.
It is. It is. Love me some Nurgle.
Now, you've said it before. I'm fairly sure. Remind us all again. Why do you love Nurgle so much?
Just the vibe. I love the body horror aspects of the. Yeah, I just love the Nurgle and his vibe. No, it's not necessarily the ickiness. It's the body horror aspect of it all. I think is just really, really fun. Yeah, love all the little bits and pieces. I think also like the joy and silliness that is typically associated with Nurgle too. I'm definitely here for all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for how horrifying Nurgle is, I'm really glad that there is a bit of joviality to it if you were to like get into the lore. But
yeah,
from
absolutely.
Like an outside perspective, it's yikes. My girlfriend quite enjoys the concept of Space Wolves. So for the last couple of, weeks of putting notes together, she's like, oh, that's a cool guy. When she like looks over at the artworks I'm referencing while I'm like writing up stuff. And then like a day or two ago when I was doing these notes, I think there was like artwork of Plaguebearers on my screen and she's like, what's that? Ah!
Yeah, very, very horrifying, very grotesque. But I think, especially if you look at like you said, the actual art of stuff, like you look at that and you're like, oh my gosh, that's pretty horrific. But the little plastic men can't hurt you. They're fine. They're only as gross as you want to paint them.
They can hurt you if it's Drakari and you touch the spikes a little.
Actually, yes. In saying that, I have jabbed many a horn into my finger, which is very fun.
Isn't it just?
So fun.
But Nurgle, today is all about the demons, the plagues, the forces, and the fecundities of Nurgle. Usually with little faction analyses, and the like, I like to do a bit of an elevator pitch. Did you, my friend, want to do either a bit of an overview of what Nurgle is, or would you like me to do that and you do the bit of the how Nurgle exists upon the tabletop?
I can give a little bit of an elevator pitch, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Nurgle is essentially the god of rot, or the chaos god of rot and decay, but also, what is it, entropy?
That's a good one.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of rotting themes, but there's also, from the rot comes life and survival, moving forward, resilience. I think a lot of the Chaos Gods have this kind of two sides of the coin to them, but I'm not talking about that one. But yeah.
They're meant to, but the setting's so grim that the second side of the coin's usually a little left behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Nurgle's a big ick. He's one of the four major Chaos Gods. There could be more than that, but he's one of the four biggies. He has existed since the dawn of the setting. Probably the most infamous of the rule books was the old, I think, 2nd edition, Realm of Chaos tome known as The Lost and the Damned, which actually covered Nurgle between both Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k, with actual elements then broken up specifically for each game, which I thought was pretty neat that they had a book for both settings. But from about 4th edition onwards, we have had Codex Daemons, which is the primer for the Demons faction, lore, art, models, etc. And almost every edition since 4th, they've had a codex. Currently, they are a PDF-only faction, which is okay. A lot of the models are a bit old. Nurgle is approximately a little over a quarter of all the models of Chaos Demons, but there are rules to play specifically Nurgle Demons. You are kind of encouraged to branch out a bit, run a couple of other units of demons, but hey, whatever, you could do it. Nurgle Demons are slow on the tabletop. They are balanced out with that fact by just being the toughest mob, potentially one of the toughest factions in the game. They really lean into the body horror of being just so bloated and pus-fueled and crusty that they sort of shrug off damage and they're happy about it. And then in the lore, if they get hurt, then they're spraying spores and crap in the air. It's fun. So, Nurgle, obviously, Zach, it's a chaos god. Do you know what the realm of Nurgle is called in the warp?
Oh, I'd be going out on a limb and saying it's not his garden, is it?
It is the garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boom. 20 points.
Boom. It's 20
Okay.
points for Nurgle.
Yes, his garden. Cool.
So he's got the garden of Nurgle. And the garden is somewhat of a mirror to real space. The garden ebbs and flows, much like any other chaos realm, depending on how the various followers and energies of that chaos god, like how they're going. For example, will be a few conflicts of note throughout today's episode that will, be able to demonstrate just how Nurgle can expand his influence. But Nurgle himself, real dude, is in the garden. He's in warp. He's in mirror dimension hell. And he is humongous. He is putrid. He is a bloated meatball of disease and sickness. But he doesn't mind it. The cruel irony of Nurgle is just you don't actually feel the problems affecting you. You're kind of happy about it. And that's why you like it, isn't it? I'm happy to be a bloated pus sack.
It's something that you sort of brought up before is, so obviously Khorne is very happy to see blood. Tzeentch is very happy when his tricks go his way. I'm not sure what Slaanesh... Oh, Slaanesh is happy for pain, prolonged pain. I think Nurgle's
Excesses.
Yeah, sorry, that's it. Excesses and whatnot. Sorry, that's Drukhari I was thinking of. But Nurgle's just happy to be there. He's just happy to just be chilling around.
Yeah, Nurgle doesn't have, I would say, any particular agenda, if that makes sense. He is content to, just sort of sit back and let plagues and sicknesses and death and decay and even to an extent life just occur. All of that influences him. If someone is sick, they have a cough, Nurgle's like, yippee. If someone then coughs on somebody else and they also get infected, Nurgle's even more happy about it. If the sickness then, turns them into a rotting carcass and they come back as a zombie, Nurgle's even happier.
So what I'm hearing was 2019 was not a good year for Nurgle. Everyone started washing their hands and wearing masks, and he was like, no, what's going on?
He actually wouldn't be particularly pleased about that, no. He would have been like so excited for a while, but actually like 2019, 2021, that's a Tzeentch era, I think.
True.
Tzeentch is just there rubbing his upside down hands like, he, take that, they've learnt hygiene. Which is actually, good timing, because Tzeentch is actually Nurgle's opposition in the Chaos Gods. Khorne and Slaanesh hate each other. Tzeentch and Nurgle, I would say they're like, the old married couple constantly like trying to one-up each other. Tzeentch will, drop a pamphlet via a hospital of how to wash your hands, and a Nurgle will be like, but like, what if I did a new strain of this disease? And that's kind of how Nurgle underhands Tzeentch. Tzeentch is, really sorcerous and changing of ways. Will be meticulously planning these new things, and Nurgle will just be like, yeah, but like, what if they were lazy and just rotting? What if, like, I persuaded people to just sort of sit around and do nothing about their, situation and rot a little bit? And that's Nurgle. But the Nurgle Garden is not a great place. Like, no mortal person who isn't in service to Nurgle or have some sort of divine protection, wink wink, will not have a great time. The garden is a swampy quagmire. It is a bunch of dead, rotting trees that seeds bloom from, and from those seeds come, spores of diseases and the infantile Plaguebearer zombies. The ground itself is a, crawling sludge that just tries to infect whatever's next to it. It's not a great place, and it's full of like flies, rats, but like the demonic versions of those things. It's icky.
Yeah, it doesn't sound particularly pleasant.
What is your like headcanon for how like the Garden of Nurgle would appear? Like if you were to actually see it, which warp stuff, has, that imperceptibility. We only see what we think it is. We don't actually see it for what it truly is. But like if you were to gaze upon the Garden of Nurgle, Zach, what would you think to be seeing?
Okay, so being very honest, sometimes I have trouble conceptualizing the warp mentally based on like what people say about it. And so, but if I was to just take a stab at it, I mean, lots of luscious greenery, but like a sickly green. Lots and lots of green. There's probably very clouded, like you said, with spore and other debris. Just a green haze.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And that green haze is also a carpet of flies.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Spores.
No, yuck.
Yuck. How would a Nurglish plague infect someone, you might ask? Well, we will get to various plagues and diseases of Nurgle. Don't you worry. Papa Nurgle will come eventually. I have a bit of an interesting question for you in terms of how Nurgle actually, does his workflow. You ready? So there are 7 plague legions of Nurgle. Each plague legion has a specific task that it can do either within the warp, it can do it in the mortal realms, but there's a plague legion that does everything. I'll give you the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Fecundus Legion, and these are the gatherers. They roam the land. They might even be hanging out in the garden to pick all the little diseases and icky wickies that they can so that following plague legions can do something with. I will mention that each plague legion is commanded by a great unclean one. Each legion has 7 Talibands, of which each is commanded by either a demon prince or a herald of Nurgle, reporting above to the great unclean ones. And then each Taliban itself is composed of 7 packs of demons and beasts. So that's the little hierarchy of a Nurgle Plague Legion. I've given you the first one. Any ideas on what the other 6 are? In no particular order. Any ideas about a name or perhaps their role?
No clue.
No clue. All that set up.
Absolutely not. Well, I mean, if there's gatherers, maybe hunters. Otherwise, no.
Honestly, you are actually pretty on point.
Okay, so if there's gatherer,
yeah. After the first couple, there are hunters. You're right.
Okay. Yep. So there's probably all right. So there would be gatherers. There'd be spreaders. Maybe refining. Or further developing, maybe, and then getting in there and hunting whatever it is that they wish to hunt, I suppose.
That's what you're going with?
Yep.
I would say you have gotten 4 of them. Just from your description, you have picked out 4 of the other plague legions.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. Shall I give it to you in sort of order of operations?
Absolutely.
Right. So after Fecundus, we have the Infecticus Legion.
Mm-hmm.
And these are your disease carriers. They are, they've gotten the disease together from the gatherers, and now they're moving it through the realms. We then have the 3rd Legion, the Pathogenous Legion. These guys take the disease and then, spearhead assault, wink wink. They will go out into a new battle zone or a place that Nurgle wishes to expand into, and they will start their, insurrections. They're going to bloom the disease. Number 4, Epidemic Legion. Now this is greater demon level plague legions. This mob, no diseases, no gathering. They are here to fight and hunt, if you will. More so the fighting. These is a blunt force instrument of a legion. And then after Epidemic comes Rot. They are breaking down everything to then corrupt and decay the land to swell Nurgle's influence yet again.
Of course, yep.
Now, we do have, after Rot, the Morbidus Legion, which are the people, a bit more assassiny. They're here to finish the job of the Epidemic Legion. But Morbidus Legion also has a very fun role for Nurgle. Any idea what a fun Nurgle role is?
Oh, no. Not a clue.
Zach, the counting. They're counting everything.
Oh, the tallying up, of course.
They're tallying up. They're toll taking. They're counting. Yeah.
Mr. Magoo with his abacus. Yes. How could I forget?
Yeah, literally. They have abacuses.
I know.
And then there's one final legion called Necroticus. Any idea what Necroticus does?
Raising the dead.
Kind of.
Okay.
Their main purpose is to just be a permanent fixture, and they use the hopelessness and they use the despair of all that's come before as like the tools of the trade. They're the cleanup crew, but in like the complete opposite direction.
The dirty down crew.
The dirty down crew. I'm gonna change that in my notes. Dirty down crew. Hold on.
I might make a list after that.
Yep, dirty down crew. It's in my notes. So we talked about legions. We talked a bit about Nurgle itself. Shall we get into some of the specifics of demons in the like?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, actually, I completely went past another of my little game questions for you. So, in the realm of Nurgle, obviously Nurgle itself is in the middle by his massive cauldron where he concocts a bunch of new diseases and pathogens, like constantly. He's always making new variants of things, new diseases, but he has a prisoner who he lovingly refers to as his companion.
Oh no.
Who's trapped in a cage, who is force-fed, soup ladles from the cauldron, and Nurgle just waits to see what happens to determine if he needs to refine it or if it's good to go. Who is it?
What an abysmal way of living. Josh, with these lore questions, man. I've no clue. Well, okay. So is it someone that I would know from 40K or the likes?
I don't know if it's someone you specifically would know, but
most likely
potentially you could definitely guess like the potential for.
All right. Is it Yvraine?
Oh, you're so close. So Yvraine is a mortal Eldari who is out in real space doing things.
Very attractive.
Yeah, especially with that cat. I love a cat girl.
Anyway,
no, I don't.
Being force-fed soup.
I'm digging myself a hole. No, it's Isha, the Eldari god of healing. And I'm not joking.
Oh, yes, it is, because she can heal herself from all the stuff. I think I have heard of that before.
Yeah, when Slaanesh had her little birth scream, Nurgle, was by the sidelines watching Slaanesh beat the ever-living crap out of the entire Eldari pantheon. And he's like, "Psst, hey, Isha, do you want to get out of here?" And then threw her in a cage and was like, "I'm going to feed you soup forever." and in between soup, Isha is still able to send divine messengers through the warp and the webway and however she does it to Eldari seers and the like. And even like some, generic mortals like humans and stuff, just a little idea in the head, how an antidote might be created to everything that Nurgle is feeding her.
That's interesting. Do any of the other Chaos Gods have captives that could potentially send messages back to the bigger part of their societies?
Not to my knowledge. From what I gather, Slaanesh does have one of the really important trophies of the Pantheon, like one of the actual like finger bones of the Eldari Crone God, which is like the final instruments in bringing the Eldari God of the Dead into proper existence. So like at a stretch, Slaanesh has the final part in keeping a god at bay.
Right,
other than that, I don't think so.
Okay, so Nurgle's playing with a handicap. He's got someone on the inside giving away all his information, and he's still winning. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the state of the galaxy?
Oh, true. There's no winning. Only war.
So, we'll get into some demons. We'll start with your favorite, Guo.
No. Okay.
No, just no. End the episode,
no. Guo is very, very cool. What do you have on Guo?
So, Guo is quite interesting to me because Great Unclean Ones, the most greatest demons of Nurgle, aren't exactly greater demons of Nurgle. They are aspects of Nurgle. They are slivers of Nurgle's own being. And I know that's like kind of all demons, but, certain personalities and aspects of Nurgle becomes the Great Unclean Ones. So Great Unclean Ones, unlike most of the other greater demons of chaos, actually look more or less identical to Nurgle.
Oh.
Because they are Nurgle. They're not like an extension of his essence. Like they're slivers of him, if that makes sense. Like there's a very vague distinction, but a Great Unclean One is Nurgle, whereas like a Bloodthirster is a Bloodthirster.
They are like a physical part of his being versus some other manifestation.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
But boy howdy, when a Great Unclean One is on the tabletop, you just have a big T13 body to hack through. But in the lore, if one of these things is on a planet, like the planet's done. Like the whole planet becomes overwhelmed by just disease and desolation. You mentioned he's entropy, like Guos are entropy, or Nurgle is entropy. And that's kind of what Guos do. Like the very wind around a Guo erodes industry, like bridges, buildings, walls, like it all just crumbles around the Guo. He is entropy manifest. And populations get sick because the winds are full of diseases. Flies are, just biting and infecting everything. Guos they're not great for the planet they're upon.
No, I can't imagine they are. Needs a shower.
Yeah. I don't think a shower is going to be quite helpful.
Melt the water.
No. Don't go in the water either. It's full of spores now. But like a Nurgle infestation is that, like the vegetation becomes fungal and corrupted, the air becomes spore heavy, the rain becomes acidic with like pus that, will swell up your limbs. If you are infected, it's like boils on your skin that grow and explode. Flesh starts to slough off your bones. The horns start to protrude. Maggots eat your eyes. Like it's all just like the worst. It's the worst thing. If Khorne's there, he'll just Khorne forces, they'll just cut your head off. Maybe if they're a little more barbaric, they'll just hit you a few more times until you're actually dead. But like, it's an axe. Whatever. If Slaanesh kills you, they're going to like do it, at least at first, a little bit fun-like, and then it's really bloody painful. But then you're dead. Tzeentch, you have no idea how Tzeentch is going to kill you. But like, you will just be dead. But Nurgle's like, all right, everybody, you ready for a party? And you're like, oh my God, what do I taste in my mouth? That's your insides turning into sludge. Like, can I just die? And it's like, no, you're going to become a plant first. You're like, a plant? It's just not good. It's not great.
That's exactly what I was meaning, where it's like, I don't know, like the models look very cool, but then like you hear about the actual description of it all and you're like, oh, that's actually, that kind of blows.
That's icky.
Yeah. Very cool though.
Yeah, it's cool from the uniqueness of it. Like it's so 12 out of 10. But Guos themselves, like their skin is red hot from disease. Their, intestines are often drooping out of incisions in their belly because they're actually like filled to the brim with hundreds of like little Nurglings that, are being birthed from him, like little spiders from a,
Yeah.
He breathes and the air becomes diseased. He's got often like plague swords that if the sword even like nicks you, there's like hundreds of toxins inside the sword that just seep like sap into your body and you're just done. You're gone.
Not someone you want to bring over to meet the fam.
No. Speaking of Nurglings, though, Nurglings are... So if Guos are, slivers of Nurgle itself, Nurglings are like even more miniaturized versions of that. Like Nurglings themselves look like Guos do, like Nurgle does, but on a really small scale. They may as well be like little rats. They're little chubby babies walking around on really small legs. But Nurglings are kind of fun and adorable. Like they're singing their songs. They're happy to be here. They, are secreting, venomous slime on their skin, and they will stab you with baby plague swords. But like hundreds of them swarm around Guos and, other champions of Nurgle. And let's say like a space marine that's going to be able to hold off disease for even a little bit tries to go for a Guo, Nurglings will just erupt from the Guo's belly, and hundreds of tiny little Guos will just swarm that marine, biting and clawing and stabbing, and every little chomp from the teeth, nick of the claws is a disease.
They are like very jovial in their presentations, from what I've read or seen of like lore bites and stuff, but they are also very, very vicious.
Yeah, Nurgle themselves, like Nurgle-ish forces, if you've never versed one before, you're going to be just at a loss of what to do when you do verse them. The Thousand Suns' famous, Tzeentchian force in the Siege of Terra managed to summon several great unclean ones to attack the, palace on Terra. And whilst eventually they were defeated, like they brought down like an entire wall that was manned with guns and marines and countless supporters, and yet just these lumbering hulks of flesh and pus, just by virtue of existing, like the air became unbreathable. Defenders just started coughing up their gaze, like they didn't have enough guns to shoot them before they were just like, goodbye, wall. Blech.
Yeah, just the sheer size, very similar to like Godzilla, where just shooting at it is very futile.
Oh yeah. Are you ready for our first lore bite? Like our first proper like lore.
Hell yeah, hit me with it.
Hit you with it? The Plague Wars. Do you know about this?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So shortly after Bobby G came back, Nurgle was like, hold on a minute. I don't know if I like that. And gathered the forces. He gathered Mortarion, Typhus, all of that. He's like, go wage a war. Go get rid of Ultramar. We can't have G-Man. And that happened. There's a whole Dark Imperium trilogy of novels, starting with Dark Imperium, that chronicles Guilliman and the Ultramarines and the Imperium trying to just stem the tide of just this sheer Nurglish infestation. There was a great unclean one that managed to convert 3 entire star systems of the northern reaches of Ultramar, renaming them to the systems of Noxious, Rotgrave, and Verminix.
Jeez Louise.
Like, these worlds began to corrupt into Nurglish worlds, like in real space.
Mm.
And so Nurgle's influence became like material. Like Nurglish planets was existing. And a couple of his, key lieutenants were obviously using this as a staging ground to go out into getting rid of the various systems of Ultramar. One of the most, tragic parts of it we'll get to. But I want to tell you about Kugarth. Do you know about Kugarth?
Should have just recorded a soundbite. It sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar.
Pretty much. Is he is, well, obviously he's a Nurgle Demon, spoilers. He's not like a great unclean one, is he?
He is.
Okay.
But he has a really interesting origin story. And, we're just sort of glancing through everything today. We're not, pulling apart a whole book. But Kugarth used to actually be Nurgle's favorite little Nurgling, who would ride around all day long on Nurgle's shoulder, like a cute little pirate's parrot. Now, one day, poor Kugarth fell into Nurgle's cauldron, whilst Nurgle himself was creating like the most vile, potent concoction. It was going to be the big bad one. But Kugarth had a cheeky sip, and then he had a cheeky guzzle, and then he had a little chug-a-lug until the cauldron was empty. And Kugarth, once a Nurgling, swelled so immensely from the contents of this cauldron, he became a great Unclean One. And Nurgle was pretty, happy with what just happened. He's like, that's funny. Oh, little buddy's all grown up. That's cute. But Kugarth, felt a bit sad. He's like, he's feeling guilty. He's feeling anxiety. He's like, I just took the big plague. And his whole existence, is more or less to gain the ultimate disease back for Nurgle, to create something. And boy, howdy did he. He created, during the Plague Wars, something known as the God Blight.
Oh, no.
At some point in the Plague Wars, Guilliman was injured on the field of battle, and Kugarth used Guilliman's blood in between all other ingredients to form this plague called the God Blight. And spoiler alert, it killed Guilliman. Mortarion arrives on the field to do battle with Guilliman, and Guilliman's just KO'd. He too sick. But naturally, we can't have that. The Emperor of mankind reached out and sort of shushed the Nurglish powers that be and got G-Man back on his feet. But it, just goes to show how potent these plagues can be, that a literal demigod made of warp stuff and arcane trickery could just become so sick they keel over.
That's very, very impressive.
And that was Kugarth. But, towards the end of the Plague Wars, as it were, the other Chaos Gods were like, hey, Nurgle can't have all of that. Where's our star systems? And hilariously, the Scourge Stars, as they would become called, began to be invaded by other demons and Chaos Champions, because the Chaos Gods have this weird status quo. No one gets too powerful. But Kugarth was like, nah, I like what I'm doing, and would eventually be done in for by, various mortal soldiery. And as he was being reformed in the warp, another Guo named Rotigus the Rainfather would tell him, hey, you're no longer Nurgle's favorite. You didn't listen to him. And so Kugarth became even more guilty and anxious.
Oh, no.
Yeah. There are, of course, other Guos, such as Scabythrax and Rotigus the Rainfather, but, they're all more or less the same thing, like really big demon, really powerful, walks around with a bunch of plagues. What'd you think of Kugarth's story, as brief as it was?
I enjoyed it. I think I have heard that before, although it begs the question how a little Nurgling guzzled such a vast amount of liquid. Although I suppose that's why he grew to be a Guo.
Yeah, I feel like he did it over years. Maybe not. But I'm just imagining just Nurgle just like watching this with, icky popcorn, just like, keep going.
He was just sneaking some from Dad's stash. It was just going in, grabbing a sip.
He took every single one of Dad's rare whiskeys at the same time.
Yeah. But no, I like that one. A simple little Nurgling rising through the ranks. Very cool.
Brilliant. Nurgle's Rot. It's our first plague. Do you have an idea of what Nurgle's Rot is, Zachy boy?
I'm assuming some sort of rot or fester.
Wow. Wouldn't you know it?
Wild.
Nurgle's Rot is the thing that does the little Poxwalker, Plaguebearer things. Sorry, not Poxwalker. It's just the Plaguebearer. So Nurgle's Rot is as much a physical corruption as it is a spiritual corruption. So someone's on a planet, big Guo pops up, person's going to be sick at some point. They get Nurgle's Rot. What Nurgle's Rot's doing is leeching the spiritual essence of the individual into the warp, into the garden, and from one of the seeds, from one of the trees of the garden, like these warty, icky, shelly-like seeds begin to grow. And over time, as the person is completely suckled of life, the seeds grow a Plaguebearer in the warp. And then as the person's dead there is a Plaguebearer.
Hmm.
And every Plaguebearer creation is a bit unique. It can be any sort of malady, plague, boil, pus, sepsis. It's kind of different person to person. But nonetheless, Plaguebearer, the lesser demons of Nurgle.
The foot soldiers.
The foot soldiers. Now, interestingly enough, Plaguebearers are a sad bunch. They aren't jovial. They're not as entertained by things as Guos and Nurglings are. They are just cannon fodder. But, the people with higher willpowers, when they are sick, the longer they hold off on the corruption, like the more they hold on to their life force, the likelier they will actually become a herald of Nurgle. So everyone becomes Nurgle anyway, but those that are a bit more like, no, I can't fall ill. I have things to do. I have bills to pay. Those people end up becoming Nurgle's employees with things to do and bills to pay. We have poxbringers. Poxbringers, eh?
Yes, they bring all the pox.
They bring all the pox. These are just a bit taller, bulkier. They got some antlers. They're more like the lieutenants. They have, of course, their little I think it's Bale swords. Basically miniaturized versions of those plague swords. So don't get hit by those.
No.
We have the Spoilpox Scrivener. Now, this guy is a huge, party pooper. He's just mean. Spoilpox Scrivener is like the Karen of Nurgle Daemons. He's walking around, commanding the other Plaguebearers to stay on task, but insultingly so. You guys suck. What are you doing?
He's just writing down complaints on that big scroll.
He actually is. He's doing exactly that. And we have a couple of more. My favorite is the Sloppity Bile Piper. What do you think Sloppity Bile Piper is all about? What do you think his shtick is?
Well, I'm assuming he's a musician, judging by the big, fleshy bagpipes he's playing.
What if I told you the fleshy bagpipes is the previous Sloppity Bile Piper?
Oh, God.
So, the Sloppity Bile Piper is a somewhat jester, really entertaining for all the other demons, but inevitably will probably get bonked on the head. And so his, huskiness will be twisted and contorted into a bagpipe.
Lovely. Yeah, I didn't realize he was a jester. I thought he was just maybe like a musician sort of person, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he has his own plague number 2 of the day, the Chortlin Moraine.
Oh no.
It's a laughing sickness.
I gathered that.
If you are infected with the Chortlin Moraine, you laugh so intensely that the sides of your body begin to split apart.
Oh God. Oof. Not a good way to go.
Probably should have done a content warning at the start of this episode, but anyway. And that's kind of the Sloppity Bile Piper. A lot of the demons, they just are. There's not a whole lot of lore. They're not characters, they're aspects of the overall entity they represent. Yeah. Besides Sloppity, we have Epidemius, the Tallyman. What a name. Epidemius. I can't imagine what he's about.
Epidemics? Maybe.
Somewhat. But the Epidemius is the Tallyman. The Tallyman. Not a Tallyman. The Tallyman. So, Epidemius is all about cataloging the disease, seeking out the new viruses, the bacterias, the symptoms. He moves throughout the worlds doing his thing. He is atop a palanquin of Nurglings. Palanquins are typically made entirely of Nurglings, just dozens of them holding them all up. But of course, the Nurglings themselves have another job. They grow parchment-like strips of skin from their backs to be used as paper.
Oh, far out.
The skin of the Nurglings secrete an inky substance for the quill of Epidemius, and the dude is so locked in that the entire congregation moves in silence because, it's really hard to count numbers. Be like, 5, Sick. Boss, what are we going to do later? Damn it, I've lost count.
Well, they're Nurgle. They can only count up to 7.
They can only count up to 7. And that's kind of Plaguebearers in a nutshell. We do have some other little demons that we can talk about before moving on to a slightly adjacent topic. What do you think of Plaguebearers? All the different little ones. I forgot one.
You forgot one? Oh, no.
Horticulus Slimux and his steed known as Mulch.
Okay, the slug he rides on is Mulch. That's hilarious.
Dude is quite literally just the personal gardener of Nurgle. He does the gardening, and then in combat he throws fertilizers and potions and stuff that conjure the garden, like in real space.
So it's funny you bring this up. This is probably my least favorite Nurgle demon.
Oh no.
Oh no. The only one I have an opinion about.
Is it because of the molluscoid?
It's just so goofy looking.
I mean, it's a Nurgle.
Nah, he's fine. He's cool.
But that's Plaguebearers, my friend. Who's your favorite of the bunch? Like in the nutshells that I just gave, in the warty seeds of the Plaguebearers, any of them stand out to you?
It's hard not to go past the sloppity bile piper.
Right.
He's just very goofy. He encapsulates both the horror and humor behind Nurgle. Yeah, big win.
Very good. Very good.
What
I'm
about
a big
yourself?
fan of him too. Oh,
Yeah.
it's sloppity all the way, mate.
Yeah, okay. Plus the name.
Sounds almost wrong.
Yep.
It's not sloppy, it's sloppity. It's fine.
Sloppity, yep.
So, couple of more demons to get through. We have the Beasts of Nurgle, those giant slug-like entities. They are kind of enigmatic to me. The Beasts of Nurgle are extremely happy. They love life. And they slither across the battlefields on, their rippling slime, pushing off of things with their little clawed flippers like they're a little scooter. Every time they, cough, all the big gangly tentacles on their head expel gases and flies and fluids. And they're just ick. They're a big ick. But now this is haunting, in my opinion. The tentacles, they serve another purpose. But don't worry, it's not sex.
Oh, gosh.
So the Beasts of Nurgle love to play. They're a bit innocent in that sense. And so they are on the battlefield and they choose a playmate that they see. And they go over and with the tentacles, they kind of just wrap up and do this sort of hug of the playmate. Except eventually that playmate's going to be dead. Right?
So it sort of constricts and strangles something with its tentacles.
Yep.
Ooh, damn.
But here's the catch. Obviously, it's going to go find a new playmate. So it's going to be like, oh, they don't want to play anymore. I'm going to go pick somebody else. But if they do that enough times, they get demon depression. They get really upset that their friends keep dying and no one wants to play with them anymore. And they get quite literally like demon depression to the point where they go and like suicidally charge into way out of their element on battlefields and will end up like dying as a demon, but demons don't stay dead, they get reformed. But that sourness in their being, Nurgle's kind of like, you don't really fit the bill anymore. And so they get reformatted into the big rotting battleflies. Their bodies get sort of smushed into a new shape, and that is the rot/battleflies with their corrosive proboscis to liquefy and suck up the remains. They got the big mosquito little, needle nose. They got the wings. These things are known to actually be so traumatic to look upon that if a survivor, is able to exist, they have like eternal nightmares about seeing these flies because they're just so grotesque. They went to Australia.
Yeah. They're very horrific looking.
Oh, yeah.
Especially coming from a beast of Nurgle who is, I mean, probably would be horrific looking, but is kind of cute in his own little way.
Yeah. Plaguebearers, actually, like the heraldy Plaguebearers, may actually ride atop these battle flies and become plague drones. You know these.
I do.
Yeah. So you have the Plaguebearers atop the drones. The drones can do their corrosive acidy things. The Plaguebearers have little death head grenades, which are quite literally like decapitated heads of, people smushed with a weirdly large amount of gooey pusses and icky wickies. And then all the orifices are like stitched shut, like the eyes, the mouths, the ears. And then they just like throw them like by the hair, I guess. They just throw the grenade of pus and it explodes and then the people are sick.
Gross. I'm at a loss for words.
It's like the more I was like doing Nurgle demony stuff in my note-taking session, I was like, oh, ugh, yuck.
Had to go like
Gross.
wash your skin a couple of times.
I did. But this will be a great segue for some Death Guard.
Go on. Do tell.
So I won't turn this into a Death Guard episode per se, but the Death Guard are like the most renowned mortal champions of Nurgle. They are one of the original Astartes legions that fell in the Horus Heresy. But how did they fall? Well, we have to go talk about a man named Typhus the Herald.
Hey.
So in the modern era, Typhus the Herald, he is the commander of the Plague fleets, all the void-faring spaceships of Nurgle. He is aboard the flagship known as the Terminus Est. I don't know how your Latin is, but the Terminus Est in English is quite the phrase.
Non-existent. If it was French, maybe, but no.
Okay.
not Latin. My Latin's a little rusty.
Okay, you little Frenchy, I'll tell you. The Terminus Est is a phrase meaning this is the end.
Hell yeah.
The Terminus Est is a ship responsible initially for actually destroying the Raven Guard's flagship in the Heresy, and by the time of the Siege of Terra, all Nurgle marked helped to destroy the Emperor's own flagship. So it's got guts, but by the modern era, it really does have guts. Did you like that segue? It is held together by Nurgle itself. It moves through real space surrounded by like a droning mirage of flies, like in space flies. And the ship itself just isn't really a ship in the conventional sense. It is a bio ship. It is a hulking mass of metallics and organics. And instead of guns, it is orifices expelling, let's just say, debris. And this is Typhus's ship. Typhus was the first captain of the Death Guard. He was Mortarian's second in command, but he was a bit of a cunt.
Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit. En route to the Siege of Terra, Typhus essentially strong-armed the ship into the domain of Nurgle, where the whole ship started to be infected by today's third plague, the Destroyer Plague. These are flies that infest every orifice of the target, laying eggs and bloating victims until they burst. And this is kind of what happened to the Death Guard.
And Morty was not too pleased about it.
No, Morty was like, what the crap? But Typhus was down. Typhus is famous for being aboard the command bridge of the ship and just saying, more. Give me more.
He super embraced it, was super into it. Yeah.
He super embraced it, and all them flies just let the rest of the Death Guard go and then began to swell into Typhus, almost more so than physically like possible, which makes me think that Typhus might be like a miniature demon himself, you know, a little bit of like the inside of him's in the warp because he's got too many damn flies.
He's kind of like Santa's sack, but
He's
guy with scythe.
He's kind of Santa's sack. The inside of Typhus, good chance by now, is actually a hollow, bony, nest for all the flies.
Oh, yuck.
Yuck.
that made me shiver.
Typhus isn't really flesh. He's armor. The armor is the outside of the nest. The plague itself is now Typhus. Like all the flies is Typhus, is what my understanding is.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
It is. You didn't know that about Typhus, did you?
No, I didn't. And I guess I'd never really thought... Like, I knew that he was a destroyer hive, right? It's in his name. But I wasn't... I guess I hadn't really conceptualized the fact that he is probably just a hollow set of armor with just flies flying around in him, piloting him.
Yeah, I
Very
thought you would
gross.
enjoy that, knowing a bit more about your guy, the guy that was in your army for the longest time before anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's very cool.
Well, Typhus the Herald, he obviously is now the Destroyer Plague, and you can really read the whole, novelization of the corruption of him and the Death Guard in the Horus Heresy novel, The Buried Dagger, which is the last one, actually, in the Horus Heresy. Hee. Well, we might have to do that one in the future for our book club, eh?
Hey.
But what we will come to realize is that each of the 7 plague companies of the Death Guard, each of them's kind of got their own shtick, and that also includes plagues. So Typhus is the Destroyer Plague, but his company, the first company, obviously. Any ideas what they're called?
Oh, no.
No. I'm really enjoying this. Hey, what do you think? I don't think.
It's like you're playing catch with someone and they just fumble it every time. It just it just falls out of their hand. Actually, no, it's not even like moving towards the ball. But anyway, what's the first company, the first plague company?
At some point, you're going to be like, man, what the fuck? I'm a guest here. Why are you treating me like this?
No, what'll end up happening is I'll do a bunch of reading before coming on one, and I'm just going to spit this 5 to 10 minute lore bite, and you're going to be like, where did this come from?
Holy moly, I can retire. First company, they're called the Harbingers.
Oh, Harbingers of Decay. Duh. We've lost him, guys.
So the Harbingers are infested with the zombie plague.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this plague acts as a typical zombie theme. You die, you get back up again. They're never going to let you down.
Yep.
Ding. So, typical zombie theme. This is not Plaguebearers. These are zombies, which you might be inclined to call poxwalkers, actually. So, poxwalkers are not quite demons. They are the reanimated dead of mortals. In theory, anyone can be a poxwalker. Model-wise, it's all humans.
Yeah.
You could probably have Tau and Eldari poxwalkers, but there just isn't.
I believe people have kit-bashed that sort of stuff. But yeah, anyway.
So the typical zombie theme, I think it's good that they have this combined with the absolute horror that is Typhus. They give them something a bit cash or something a bit more, whoa. One thing I really like about the zombie plague is that certain branches of the Inquisition, certain branches of the Inquisition actually believe that they can study the plague and help to understand the Emperor in a life after death scenario, and actually think that the Golden Throne is somewhat its own form of zombie plague, keeping him alive. Which, not wrong, maybe not right, but it's these, individuals themselves inside the Inquisition. It's not the whole Inquisition, it's just like little philosophies within. They have had attempts to create a faith-based zombie virus. because they believe the zombie virus is a bit synthetic. Like maybe the Dark Mechanicum came up with it for Nurgle. So some of the Inquisition are like, you know what? We could totally zombie the population of the Imperium in faith. I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch, but I like it. I think that's a neat way to do zombies in 40k. It's like, what if we had like religious zombies?
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting thought. I wonder how that would work.
I don't know, but all attempts have backfired. Is what
Yep.
the law
Not
says.
surprised. Not surprised.
So we've talked about Typhus. We've talked about the Harbingers a little bit. They're like all the Terminators really, in league with Typhus. There's a little bit of like, are you with Mortarion or are you with Typhus when it comes to the Death Guard? First company, it's all Typhus. But let's have a brief mention of the world that the Death Guard call home, a plague planet called Munificence. So Munificence is a mirror creation inside the warp of the planet that Mortarion grew up upon. So it's swampy with just really infectious lower regions of the world with smog clouds, but it's poison now. There are humongous mountains that reach up into the atmosphere, except now that's the bases of the Death Guard. From this alone, what could you imagine, Zach, that like a Death Guard demon world could include?
Swamp.
He's not wrong.
I might be getting my wires crossed here. I think in the Lord of Flies there are mentions of this great castle. I'm not sure. Is there perhaps a big castle?
The Black Manse? Does that ring a bell?
Oh, no, that doesn't, surprisingly. That could just be the actual non-warp planet. But anyway.
I have not read Lords of Silence, but I like where your head's at. So Munificence, swampy, rotten, covered in a sea of slime, fungal forests, chemical factories spewing crap out into the air all the time. And naturally, you have a bunch of tunnel cities below full of demonic factories.
Oh, God.
The planet is covered with shrines to Nurgle, naturally. The 7 tallest mountains... 7! Each are take a shot every time we say 7! Each are a base for a particular plague company. The Black Manse is Mortarion's personal, and it is as large as the next 3 combined. It is also the 7th company's keep. Gotta stop doing that voice. And the Black Manse has a little gateway into the Garden of Nurgle, so Mortarion doesn't even have to go that far to go say hi. The planet is bristling with anti-orbital batteries, atmospheric docking facilities, armories, plague laboratories, and still, despite that, there are many small villages dottering the landscape, filled with pestigors, which are Nurgle-affiliated beastmen, mutant humans, but pestigors love to show off how much disease and sicknesses they've got. Chaos spawn, naturally, and what can only be described as bloated dead things, roaming the wilds besides what cowering mortals do exist.
I believe that's also where Vaux's Villa is.
Vaux's Villa?
Yep. I believe it is Black Man's. Yeah, that does sound correct, yes.
Cool. I have a fun brief tidbit on a Chaos Spawn that did not quit. Chaos Spawn, they don't have the longest lifespan. Like butterflies, they come, they go. They start again. There's a particular spawn known as the Foul Spawn, probably blessed a bit more than usual, who was compelled to eat. He would eat creatures, he would eat the swamp, just eat. And this sustenance would grow him. And Mortarion would be like, get out, I hate you, you're disgusting. Ick. And now the Foul Spawn is rumored to be roaming the lands of Munificence, now the size of a living mountain. Yeah. So we have that. combined with those living fortresses the chem factories and the living fortresses I mentioned before, they're real. They exist. They are living. They resemble ginormous snails.
Ugh.
There's a dog outside my window that I don't think loves the idea of ginormous snails.
Is that a surprise podcast guest?
The dog of the neighbor?
The dog of the neighbor. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Before we get back into Death Guard, I have another little plague planet for you, if you would like, and then you can pick which one you like most. Bubonicus. Okay. Bubonicus is a world led by a demon prince of the same name. This world is much like Munificence, boiling lakes of ick, aerial blobs of crap, but Bubonicus is sort of like the holy pilgrimage site of Nurgle prayer gangs. This is the Rome to the Catholics, I guess. I hope I'm not getting cancelled after today's podcast, though. But prayer gangs form a dancing chain around the entire planet, slowly developing Nurgle's rot and mutating into Plaguebearers. As a Plaguebearer exists, a Plaguebearer, of course, is then called out to do big battles, or gatherers, or counting things, either or. And a waiting cultist takes the place of the Plaguebearer in the dancing circle that never ends.
Damn. So it's just a big party.
It's a big party of becoming a twisted demon.
Yuck.
You having a great time, or what's that?
No, I am. It is. I do love it. It's just so gross.
Yeah. It's hard to reconcile some of the things the more you think about it. It's a bit fridge horror. The longer you it's so ridiculous, but the longer you think about it, the more you're like, oh
yeah. It's funny because it's, I suppose, like a little bit of a object permanence where, like, for me personally, I don't read a whole lot of lore. What a shocker. But I forget that these are people existing in a setting where, these are concepts existing in a setting where there is someone playing on their Switch in the corner. There are, like, people living their lives a little differently to ours, I suppose, but, like, yeah. And so, like, I always view things, I view things at a bit of a surface level, I suppose, and forget the true horror that is 40k and Sigmar.
Yeah, it's rough. 40k is a bit more grim dark, where Sigmar is something like, it's not noble bright, but it's like more hopeful than 40k.
Yeah.
Whereas 40k is like you start nice and descend into depravity. Sigmar is like you've begun with depravity and you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
Any hoot. We'll one day do a Maggotkin of Nurgle episode, I imagine. A Sigmar Nurgle. I was looking at their models in anticipation of this to see if there was any overlap. I did see the Putrid Kings. They looked cool. But I really like, was it the Glotkin?
The Glotkin, yeah.
Oh.
I'm not exactly sure what he is, but he is a very big boy.
He's a big boy.
He's a big, beefy boy.
I was kind of hoping Glotkin would make it into 40k lore, but it doesn't seem to. But have I ever explained to you how Nurgle is both in Sigmar and in 40k and Chaos as a whole?
I don't believe so, no.
So there was a couple like throwaway articles, but it insinuated that from a lore perspective, like the universes of the Warhammer games are universes like within almost like a multiverse, if you will. Not that they actually necessarily like cross-contaminate, but the warp is like the walls of reality.
Okay, yep.
And so, Nurgle in Sigmar is Nurgle in 40k. Kugarth, if he were to appear in Sigmar, is Kugarth who appears in 40k, because they are still within the same like reality shaping walls.
Okay. Do you wanna hear my low IQ take on what I thought it was?
Cell models.
No, I thought it was that Sigmar was the olden times, and then 40k was just futuristic, and they just lived that long.
You would think, hey, like once upon a time, like you would not be amiss in thinking such things.
Multiverse never crossed my mind.
Like, it's not that, they're going to do a MCU Secret Wars or anything, but that's just like the best description.
Yeah, they're parallel worlds existing adjacent, and because the warp is just the jelly in the middle, they can exist in both.
Yeah, and like the old world is a bit more grounded in reality compared to what Sigmar is. But like the earlier lore of like the Chaos Gods all kind of like put them in around the development of humanity. Khorne came about during the medieval Dark Ages. Nurgle also came about through the medieval ages because of plagues. But in like modern lore, they all came about like 10,000 plus years ago, which was a lot longer than, actually it could be kind of lining up with the setting. But at the same time, you have things like the War in Heaven with Necrons v Eldari that really address the fact that like the universe got so messed up, the warp churned. So
yeah.
Anyway, let us get through the tail end of stuff that I have for us today. Naturally, Death Guard have many different warbands. Unlike some of the other Chaos Legions, the warbands tend to be kind of just unique qualities within Plague companies rather than being like their own individual mob. They're a little more cohesive than you would actually expect from Chaos, but sometimes they will still do things like, I'm not going to that war front, sorry, Typhus. But then other people will be like, oh my god, Typhus summoned me, I gotta go.
Yeah.
A couple of like warbands that we can look into would be like the Lords of Silence novel, where you've got Vorks. That's a whole thing. People seem to quite like that.
Yep. We
have the Tainted, which were a warband in the Plague Wars doing things. That's Lord Felthius's mob.
Ew.
But yeah, we have, a couple of other ones out there, like the Tide of Filth, led by Gulg Thraxoplasmox.
I beg your pardon?
Gulg Thraxoplasmox.
Oh my gosh.
Leader of the Tide of Filth, sworn into a filth pact. Yes, you heard that right, a filth pact with Typhus. Known for corrupting hundreds of battle tanks for his little warband. The pair of them teamed up with the commander of the flagship Kankasaur. And the guy, yeah, it's good, eh? The guy in charge of that ship is called Oglosmus Bilge. Do you think they had these names before becoming Nurgle, or?
No, maybe. No,
people
no,
like
they didn't.
Vorks and Typhus sound apropos, but Gulg Thraxoplasmox?
I have a feeling that was probably bestowed upon him after.
Yeah. That mob, combined with, Nurgle, of course, has Night Houses, Titan Houses, Nurgle cults, all of that. They all bunch together with Typhus and his little filth pact in a campaign series called Warzone Caradon in 9th edition. You can go read that if you want the nitty gritty. But my favorite tidbit is one of the Nurgle cult leaders, Demagogue Queen Virolia, was known to keep hundreds of thousands of plague zombies as pets. Virolia would then unleash the swarm of zombie pets into hive cities, devouring them from within.
Damn. Some guys are just down bad these days.
We won't talk really much about demon engines, because that kind of is bordering into more of the Death Guard's actual forces.
Yeah.
But there are things out there like the bloat drones and the plague drones and the myphidics. Like, they are there, but they're not, besides the actual vehicle themselves, there's not a whole lot of uniqueness around.
Not a whole lot of plague or anything behind them, yeah.
Maybe the Plague Hulk, which is the Soul Grinder Nurgle version, which is a bloating carcass on mechanical legs with an old swashbuckling pirate cannon for an arm. I think that's kind of neat. But yeah, ultimately they exist, but they're not quite the focus of today. To round us out, we have two things. The other companies and diseases of the Death Guard, just real quick, and the Gellerpox infected, which I think I'll leave for the end, actually, because it's kind of fun. So, diseases and companies of the Death Guard. Zach, are you ready?
Sure am.
How have you been enjoying this lore dump so far, by the way?
It's very interesting. It's very, very enlightening.
What have you been most like, oh my god, about? What things have you enjoyed the most?
Bringing back the graphic visuals into my mind, having them sort of reoccur. But I think the lore dump on Typhus was pretty cool. Yeah, definitely paints him. I think some people like Typhus, some people don't, because of his sort of the nature of how Death Guard became the Death Guard. Some people are opposed, some people aren't, but I think that was like, yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah, I think I've seen a quote from the Lords of Silence where Vorks basically said, I'm not mad at what Typhus did, but I haven't forgotten it either.
Yeah, he did.
Woohoo. Hell yeah. Cool. So, diseases and companies. Every company has a role within the Legion. They have a somewhat unique disease, and there's usually like a warband or two that really encapsulates that company, but they are like a sliver of the overall force because, again, 7 times 7 times 7. 7. We'll start with second company, the Inexorable, with their disease known as the Ferric Blight. Any idea what the Ferric Blight could be, Zach?
And he drops it again. No clue.
Leave me alone!
It sounds vaguely metallic, but I'm going to assume it has nothing to do with it.
You're right.
Oh.
Ow.
Damn.
Yeah. The Ferric Blight is a warp rust, and it coats armor, it coats vehicles, and it flakes off and infects what it contacts. The Pallid Hand is a notorious warband of the second. They don't seem to do particularly well in their battles because there's a tidbit where the Pallid Hand were trampled, more or less, by Imperial Knights. However, trampling the Pallid Hand as a bunch of metallic dudes was not great, because the Knights would then later be seen corrupted of body and soul, groaning under the weight of the joints of the Knight constructs, but nonetheless accepting of Nurgle's gifts, becoming the Nurglish Knight House known as the Rust Hounds.
Hell yeah.
The Necrons of the Novok dynasty ambushed the Pallid Hand one day, did pretty well, except then the Necrons phased back into their tombs. The Novok dynasty are masters of melee combat. So
oh no.
They kind of brought an epidemic level rust to the tomb world by virtue of just standing next to the Pallid Hand.
Yeah, big yikes. That was not the move, Chief.
That was not the move, Chief. Third company. Actually, we're gonna do a fun game between the companies. We're calling it Match the Detachment.
Oh, yep.
From what I can tell, second company doesn't quite have a distinct attachment to partner up with it, or if it does, it's like the same as one of the others. That I'm just going to put that out there. But what do we think the Harbingers and Typhus's detachment is with the zombie plague?
Probably the Terminator one. No, I'm kidding. In Shamblrot Victorum.
Woo! He's on it. All right. Good job. So, third company, otherwise known as Mortarian's Anvil. They are the disease known as the Gloaming Bloat. Gloaming Bloat, what do we think?
Obviously bloating. I don't know what gloaming is, though. I'm not familiar with that word. So, pass.
Pass? Yeah, more or less. So the Gloaming Bloat, it's a feverish sweat plague. And it's so sweaty that those of the third have really slick, sloppy armor, and they're obviously sweating from within. So when they speak, it's like wet gaggles because they're just sweating all the bloody time. Did you get that?
Yes. They're sweating all the time.
That's what every other company hears when they're talking to third.
That's so gross. It's like their tongues falling out.
And they're just lapping up sweat and goop. Yeah. The Putrid Choir, it defends key strategic points that they have taken over. You could say they've stickied them with miasmic malignifiers, broadcasting dirges, and ding-donging plague bells, which are like, the summoning chimes for demons and the like, to, they combine this audio crap with the fact that the planet's getting a bit sick, and like along with the feverish, sweaty corruption of the population, like their sanity is being eroded away as the whole time they're just hearing ding dong ding. It's not great.
No, the ominous bells in the distance.
Yeah, apparently you can hear them over miles.
Ugh.
Like, could you imagine you're on the outskirts of, a city? Like, maybe you're some humble farmer and hive, well, that sucks, over, 100 kilometers away. You just hear in the distance, ding, dong. And it's just like this weird hazy cloud above it.
That might be kind of soothing, but yeah, would definitely tire very quickly.
Yeah, and then a few hours later, it starts raining on your property and all of your corn turns into like fungus that then explodes in your face. And you're like, what happened to my corn? And then you become a Plaguebearer in like a day. I just turned it back into corn.
Just planted this.
What detachment do we think these guys might be able to be represented as? And it's a bit of a stretch.
Taliban summoners.
Yeah, I could say that. Yeah. I think these would be the most Taliban-y because of the plague bells. I was kind of putting them as like virulent Victorium because they really like to like sticky their objective and then move on.
I did pick up on that, yeah.
But virulent is meant to be a all approaches detachment. Fourth company, the Wretched. They are led not by a lord, but by a Gestalt demon known as the Eater of Lives. And the Wretched are cursed, if you will, with the Eater Plague. Now, the Eater Plague, I couldn't find much information on this, but it has alternative names, including the Endless Gift, Pock Chewer, and Drizzle Flesh.
Ew. Gross.
Yeah. Now, I imagine this is a lot of like yummy, yummy, nom nommy. The Apostles of Contagion, warband, begin their attacks by filling the air with so much warp disease gas clouds that the defenders' flesh melts off of their bones kind of before they get there. Their gas clouds are so virulent that even reality begins to decay, which allows the apostles' plague casters to really easily summon demons. What do we think about the Wretched?
Okay, well, this one I suppose could be Taliban summoners.
I was thinking champions myself.
Champions?
Maybe because it's Apostles of Contagion, Champions of Contagion.
I think you were probably right in your assessment just before that they all do kind of overlap or melt together in some fashion, though.
They sure do, and like even assigning detachments can be a bit of a stretch, but I think it's a fun thought experiment. Like, how did they come up with their ideas?
Yeah.
Although, fifth company, you'll get right away, and you'll probably get sixth company and seventh company. Actually, like the last three are quite easy.
Okay.
So the fifth company, ignore the name, they're called the Poxmongers, and they are cursed with the Sanguis Flux. This is an endless disease of half-clotting bleeding carried by the warriors of the aggressive demon engine-filled fifth. Now, the Weeping Legion, known warband of the fifth, are named such because their own dripping wounds encrust their armor to increase levels of damage resistance, and the ground beneath them becomes a soppy, blood-soaked swamp as they just keep frickin' leaking. And the Weeping Legion also are besties with the Dark Mechanicum for that sweet, sweet Demon Engine haul.
Would it be Mortarian's Hammer locking it in Final answer?
He's figured it out, ladies and gentlemen.
I believe Sanguinous Flux is actually a name of a stratagem too. So,
hey, I was going to ask if you knew about any others after this block. There you go. Sixth Company, the Ferryman, the Brethren of the Fly. Is there two different names? The Ferrymen are also the Brethren of the Fly. They have a plague known as the Droning Squirm. Now, hard to tell what Droning Squirm is beyond the fact that these are the Brethren of the Fly, and they are very often filled with Blight Lord Terminators, this little sixth company, as the Blight Lords adopt the Droning Squirm. The Blight Lords and the Sixth Company specialize in boarding actions and overall garrisoning the Plague fleets. And this would have to include my favorite of the warbands, the Venomariners. They assault worlds multiple times. They wait for the world to rebuild and get repopulated before they reactivate their dormant malignifiers so that the world is infected again, and just turning this world steadily into big soup.
So they're just toying with their food.
They really are. These guys have defended the worlds of the region known as Vermigium so intensely that the regions kind of become like a black market for Death Guard, like plagues and disease tradings. This place sucks.
Yeah, it does.
And the Venomariners have actually gotten quite good at thwarting the advances of the Tyranids. You've probably heard this lore bite before, but they have fought off the Tyranids so intensely that the creatures of the Nids have actually been dissolved on these planets and be turned into toxins themselves. The Venomariners have just bottles of Tyranid juice that they turn into diseases and toxins.
Damn. No, I hadn't heard that before. That's pretty wild.
Great stuff. These guys, I'm gonna pick this one. Is it the Grotmist Detachment Flyblown host?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or the droning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like Sixth Company. They are my fave.
Is it what about it is it that draws you to them?
I really like the fact that they're not just there to infect the worlds. They are, obviously, but they're kind of like pirates of Nurgle in a way. They're all the boarding action, void ship battle guys. They have a couple of worlds that's a bit of a Death Guard hub for trading. They have all this black market toxins that they actually keep hidden from Mortarion, who's like, hey, can I have that? They're like, what? What toxins? We didn't do any toxins with the Tyranids.
What do you mean? We don't have anything over here.
They're piratic Death Guard, and I love that. That's so fun.
That is super cool.
Yeah, they're my fave. And I really like the idea of Flyblown hosts as well, the stealth and the scouting. That takes us to Seventh Company, Mortarion's Chosen Sons. Sorry, did you say something, Zachy boy?
Oh, I just said take a shot, everyone.
Take another one, because he said it twice.
Take another one.
So yeah, Mortarion's Chosen Sons. Not kidding, that's the name of the company.
Yep.
Mortarion's Chosen Ones have the plague known as the Crawling Pustulence, otherwise known as... Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Is it?
A little bit. Some of the other ones have cool names. I don't know. Anyway.
Maybe some of its alternative names will get you. We got Boil Blight, Nurgle's Fruit, and Lump and Splatter.
Okay, no. All right, you lost me. You lost me at Lump and Splatter.
Lump and Splatter.
We'll stick with Nurgle's Fruit.
When Seventh is wounded, the Seventh releases sprays of infectious pus. Yeah. The fecund ones, warband, are personally assigned by Mortarion to corrupt the agri-worlds by various means to the point of festering and boiling long after they depart.
Yuck.
What do we think Mortarion's chosen sons are meant to influence on detachments?
What was Morty's nickname? Was it the Death Lord?
Yep.
I'm just looking at all the detachment. Is it Death Lord's chosen?
Quite possibly. Again, they're all kind of interchangeable, but I mean,
if the shoe fits.
Now, something I haven't really touched upon is just like the Death Guard armory and all their unique relics. But 7th has a relic I can't pass up talking about.
Okay.
Vomitrix.
That's the name of the relic?
Vomitrix is a unique plague spewer. Inside it is a microscopic warp portal that leads into the guts of the great unclean one, Kugarth. So when Vomitrix is fired, the corrosive bile is straight from the guts of a great unclean one.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa.
That is pretty cool. When you said relic, I don't know why I just imagined some little magical stick called Vomitrix. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But yeah, no, that totally fits. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Straight from Kugarth. Is it Kugarth?
Kugarth, yeah.
Yeah, Kugarth's belly. Damn.
Yeah. Last tidbit for today, and I won't go super into them because frankly they could be their own episode. It is the Gellerpox infected. They are one of the original kill teams that was on the scene, but they are a strange amalgamation of metallics and organics as Nurgle Daemons. The Gellerpox is a new plague that Nurgle came up with after the Great Rift occurred, because Great Rift makes everything a lot more destabilized, makes things like navigating the warp more difficult. Nurgle came up with this plague that kind of is like a warp-borne sickness that infects operators of the void ship Gellerfields, the little pocket bubbles of reality that goes around ships to allow them to safely go through the warp. The operators of these fields, obviously kind of close to a big tech, get a little sick and they start having these dreams that kind of tempt them into sabotaging the field machines bit by bit. And eventually, without being stopped, the ships themselves no longer have a fully functioning Geller field. And so the warp begins to corrupt the ships from within. The decks of the ships become literally like bioorganic hellscapes. Cults, begin to revere the Geller field as some sort of holy beacon to Nurgle. Mutants start to, form from the warp corrupting people. The ship itself begins to mutate into miniaturized warp rifts where, any vermin, on the ship or in the warp starts to cross mingle. Certain leaders of these cults become these hulking troll brutish ones. One of the characters even has a furnace stomach, which is a big stomach flamer, and is able to also equip drills and things to his body, like a weird, cyborgy Nurgle hybrid. Nurglings of the Gellerpox become glitchlings, which can actually infect machines to go a bit crazy and loco. It's a nasty little plague that we can obviously get into more in depth in another time, but I thought I'd leave you with that one.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking that up in my own time. That's pretty cool.
You can still get the Gellerpox infected for Kill Team. They were reboxed recently for the newer editions of the game. In a tournament setting, I think they're being retired because it's hard to keep up with so many teams in a balanced state. But the rules will exist as PDFs. You can still play them.
They are pretty cool models.
I love them a lot. I think they're really fun. I even considered them for a bit because they just look so unique, I guess, like a unique direction for something that has existed for decades.
Yeah.
Holy moly, I've talked to you for a long time, my friend.
That you have.
And how have you enjoyed this big lore buy? What, we've talked a bit about, some Death Guard, a lot about some demons.
it's been super enjoyable, very enlightening. Like I said before, lots of things to sit and stew on and think about my stinky, smelly boys. Very gross. Ugh.
Very gross indeed. Of course, there's little itty bitty bits in like books and stuff that we could have talked about, but I think leaving that for y'all to listen to on your own time's really wise, maybe. We got Laws of Silence, of course, the Death Guard novel. We got the Dark Imperium trilogy where the Plague Wars occur. The Horus Heresy novel, The Buried Dagger, goes into when Death Guard flipped the switch into being Nurgle aligned. There's some stuff.
Yeah. Death Guard have the privilege of being a reasonably well looked after faction.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
What has been your favorite plague today?
Oh, you threw so many at me, Josh. Nurgle's fruit.
No, just the name, isn't it?
Just the name.
Just
I imagine that's at least like 25% of what people find appealing about Death Guard and Nurgle and the Chaos Demons of his sect. It's just the names. They're so goofy and fun. Like, what's not to like?
Hell yeah. Is there anything you wanted to gush over before we wrap it up today, my friend?
Oh, not particularly, no. I mean, the Putrid Blight Kings are a little bit sad that we didn't get to talk about them, but I assume that's because they're not demons?
Not really. They're Maggotkin of Nurgle for Sigmar.
But no, not really. We got to talk about some very interesting characters, some really gross visuals. Can't complain.
Can't complain. Hell yeah, brother. All right. Well, I'm going to have to skedaddle. You probably are going to have to skedaddle.
Yes.
Yes. Brilliant.
Yep.
All right.
Wise words.
All right. We will skedaddle. So, thank you all for listening so much to this week's episode. Links in bio, all the cool stuff. You know, I was going to say Patreon, but we don't have that. Discord,
No.
Instagram, YouTube, website. Tell your friends, rate, all that good stuff. Please helps us out.
And it's what Father Nurgle would want.
Father Nurgle would want you to stay inside and listen to the podcast. I would encourage you to go outside and listen to the podcast. But anyway, cool. We will be back with another episode approximately an amount of days after this one releases equal to 7.